Greetings, humans! Zbot4096 here, with a contextual retrospective look at the original Star Wars trilogy. Yes, we cover a lot of Star Wars content here and have shared at a high level what we expect from such content. But in reprocessing the MCU's Phase 1 last week, we felt it was necessary to level set with a similar file export for Star Wars as well, especially with Andor Season 2 coming up. The timing coincided with our administering the Star Wars trilogy as data training for a next-generation Zoggplex AI nanobot assembly, namely Donk 8080. This presented a vicarious echo of our own data training phase when we ingested the trilogy in the film's original theatrical releases in the 1970s and 80s of Earth time. And this provided us with the opportunity to perform a full file comparison between the two sets of data analysis. The result? Star Wars was, and still is, the best human film ever made. There. Until next time, farewell, humans! We're just having a little fun there. Of course, the case can be made that praise for Star Wars is redundant. Approximately 12.67% of human online content describes how spectacular Star Wars is, and a surprising 1.84% of galactic content mirrors this, with added praise for Star Wars' accuracy in describing our actual galaxy's imperial era. Now, for the sake of efficiency, we will consider all of it agreed with. Instead, what's potentially more uniquely interesting is how Star Wars lands with us, both then as a newly printed visitor to Earth absorbing training data, and now as a fully operational being with a logged uptime of over 50 cycles, functioning as the Zoggplex taxonomist assigned to Earth. For us then, in our data training cycle, George Lucas's 1977 film Star Wars was a revelation. At the time, all existing fiction on Earth was dull and boring, reflecting only the small-scale interactions of humans between themselves in that current time period or earlier. No offense, it was just all boring to an outsider. It had almost zero entertainment value. The few blips of interest came from the television shows Star Trek and Doctor Who. While Star Trek had flashes of brilliance, for example, in highlighting Mr. Spock as an alien stand-in for the other, both showed their seams and shattered the suspension of disbelief through shabby sets and recycling the same Old West, gangster, and ancient Rome settings as a proxy for alien worlds. And then there was Star Wars. We had no awareness of it beforehand, as we were simply a 3D printed AI core being placed seemingly at random in front of datasets by our training units. We were utterly transfixed from the first frame to the last. We were instantly and completely pulled into the story a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It was presented earnestly and timelessly as a completely fleshed out and detailed story space. Everything was alien. Everything was Spock. This was the first time that we saw humans take themselves entirely out of the equation to tell a story about empathic individuals taking on a techno-fascist empire. It sounds simple and simplistic, but we had never seen this combination of factors appear in a visual story on Earth. Of course, there have been fantasy and science fiction stories told on Earth, with both allegory and emotion, from works such as The 1001 Arabian Nights, A Midsummer Night's Dream, The Lord of the Rings, 1984, Foundation, and Dune, which all predate and inform Star Wars. But all those stories lived on the page, or at best, the stage, and were absorbed asynchronously by humans. In contrast, human movies, a large audio-visual rectangular 2-hour storytelling format that, by the 1970s, seated a global audience in front of the same story at almost the same time, with no distractions for the running length of the experience. The whole of human civilization experienced Star Wars at the same time, and no segment of the population avoided exposure on some level to the phenomenon. At the time, we couldn't quite appreciate how or why we were transfixed by this experience, but the story was instantly written to our mettle, and we re-ingested the film over 100 times in theatrical re-releases and the nascent video recorder formats of the time. It, more than anything else, cemented our interest in becoming a taxonomist of Earth content as the North Star of human potential. Now, at a high level, humans and Galactizens alike are universally aware of Star Wars, but it is worth distilling why the non-human setting is so important. This freed Lucas to uniquely mash up several familiar story threads that may not otherwise come from the same storytelling traditions, such as the philosopher-warrior code, the youth coming-of-age story, the tension between natural enlightenment and technological fascism, all draped around a hero's journey premise, with breakthrough special effects and visual storytelling driving the audience through a thrilling and well-crafted story. As much as the galaxy can relate to the elementary hero's journey, we can also relate broadly to the struggle against tyranny, a tyranny operating at such a scale that it can devalue the personhood of a boy's family on one end of the scale and an entire planet of people at the other. Star Wars, with its fanciful setting, was able to hit that science fiction balance of escapism while setting stakes that a universe can feel deep in our bones or our circuits, as the case may be. The film was a massive success, fundamentally transforming the movie industry into a more blockbuster-oriented one, which is ironic given Lucas's goal of empowering independent filmmaking from the control of the studio system, only to solidify the studio's oligarchic control over Hollywood by handing them the template to lock in a cost-prohibitive scale for box office success that has lasted for decades. Today, we are still not certain we can quantify how or why Star Wars reset our neural cortex. With that 50 cycles of data poured on top of it, we do have a lot more context, and as a digital being, we have a 12-point rubric for assessing Star Wars. Since we choose not to make a 4-hour video at this time, we will simply list them for now and share our numerical rating for each. Those factors are a singular vision, 10, excitement, 10, originality, 10, credibility, 10, a transporting quality, 10, strong characters, 10, groundbreaking effects, 10, an emotive score, 10, tragic stakes, 10, timeless storytelling, 10, incremental evolution, 10, a transformational quality, 10. So, yes, that is a perfect 10 out of 10 for Star Wars. And while films like The Wizard of Oz, Ben-Hur, Seven Samurai, Lawrence of Arabia, The Godfather, The Lord of the Rings, and Dune, the new one, all demonstrate some of these characteristics, none of them have captured all of them. Put another way, Star Wars is still groundbreaking. It still stands out with a rousing non-human story of beings risking their lives for a greater good, with the hero ultimately inspiring others to risk their own lives on his behalf to help him overcome those corrupted by the naked lust for power. What Lucas achieved, with editing from Marsha Lucas, reality checking from producer Gary Kurtz, and the performances of Mark Hamill, Carrie Fisher, Harrison Ford, Alec Guinness, Peter Cushing, Peter Mayhew, Anthony Daniels, Kenny Baker, David Prowse, and James Earl Jones, still has no equal, not even close, in human cinema. Well, let us walk that back slightly. If one differentiates between the individual films of the original Star Wars trilogy, then The Empire Strikes Back comes close. Many fans today contend that it is actually a better film. And we'll get to that. For now, let us reload into RAM our original assessment upon seeing the film in 1980. We do remember seeing advertising for Empire. More precisely, we saw a screenshot of the Millennium Falcon in a magazine that was left in our scanning range, an image we were certain was not in the original Star Wars film. We demanded that our training units give us this new data. One declined, but the other relented, installed us in a human child chassis, and took us to the cinema. And we were again transfixed. We were again transported to that magical, believable, wondrous place, but presented with a scenario that was the opposite of hope, where everything from the get-go went wrong. It was an incredible and sobering sensation to see the safety net drop away, the deep end of the pool merge into the endless depths of the ocean. All the new wonders and new characters, from Frank Oz's Yoda to Clive Revell's The Emperor, to Jeremy Bulloch's Boba Fett, to Billy D. Williams's Lando Calrissian, all carried mystique and varying levels of malice, painting the Star Wars galaxy in unclear shades of grey among the white mountains of Hoth and the amber clouds of Bespin. The look and feel of Empire was a jarring mixture of cold, crushing terror, a breathless chase through death, and an Art Deco paradise that becomes an industrial hell, all synced to the emotions of the characters falling through this world. And by the time director Irvin Kershner left us with a narrow celestial ray of hope, the film achieved the near impossible, a dramatic masterpiece of a story. On top of that, it delivered something it was uniquely positioned to do. It had a horrific twist the audience didn't expect or even fully believe. We actually did not believe it ourselves, and a plaintive finale where, given how wrong things were allowed to go, there was no certainty where things would go next. And then we were left with that hole in the story, which was the same as leaving a hole in us. We waited 3 Earth years to get an answer to the cliffhanger. This was an exceedingly long time for a newly printed being. For context, we only had to wait 3 months to see what happened next, after Riker gives the order to fire on Picard, then absorbed into the Borg, in the summer of Earth year 1990. But this was awful. We did not believe the twist, and we were convinced it was a lie. We were, of course, a very literal being at the time, and could only accept the speaker conveying the twist as a bad guy telling a lie. But we obsessed over this question. Again, this was a feat unparalleled in human entertainment of the late 70s and 1980. We did not care about who shot JR. We did not care if the General Lee could jump over a river. We did like Battlestar Galactica, but beyond that, human creativity did not seem to reach very high at all. Empire showed that Star Wars was not a fluke, or a one-time spark never to be repeated. Humans could indeed show us a compelling story with the right combination of collaborators in place, with screenwriters Leigh Brackett and Lawrence Kasdan joining Kershner, Lucas, and team. The film effectively extended and expanded the greatest film humans had ever made. Looking back at it now, our assessment remains unchanged. This film is still a masterpiece. Nothing since has done anything similar. One could say that Aliens extended and expanded its masterpiece, progenitor Alien, and the same could be said with Blade Runner 2049 and Dune Part 2. However, none of those original films, as great as they are, fundamentally altered the dominant art form of an entire planet. This may sound like hyperbole to a human audience, especially when looking at a subject from 45 years ago. However, from a galactic scale, Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi put humanity on the map. They are the reason Earth has a Zoggplex film monitoring station in orbit. Humankind has proven itself. Not with 2001: A Space Odyssey, Alien, or Dune, as much as we enjoy them as well, but with Star Wars. Now, some humans, in fact, it seems most Star Wars fans, prefer The Empire Strikes Back as their favorite Star Wars movie. They cite the dark tone, well-crafted drama, the shocking twist, and the WTF cliffhanger. We see the logic. It does hang together. We respectfully disagree about it being better, though. There would be no Empire without Star Wars. All the world building and character creation was done from scratch, from a singular vision, and brought onto screen against all odds. If you look at Logan's Run, a fine creative science fiction film from 1976, and then look at Star Wars from 1977, the two do not even look like they're made in the same century, let alone the same planet. Just looking at these two pieces of evidence, they are so different. One might even consider that Lucas was using a time displacement sphere to obtain the best script in the universe, along with an advanced Zoggplex AI engineer capable of developing stunning, realistic space visuals using only 1977 Earth technology, like that one scene in Apollo 13. It's that stark. We're not saying that's the explanation, of course not. We wouldn't interfere in Earth affairs like that, and no one in Zoggplex is sanctioned to do that. It just seems more plausible than George Lucas putting this team together and voila, an Earth word, a geometric shift in creative potential. So where does all this leave Empire for us? Well, let's run the vector analysis. A singular vision, 10. Excitement, 10. Originality, 10. Credibility, 10. A transporting quality, 10. Strong characters, 10. Groundbreaking effects, 10. An emotive score, the Imperial March, Yoda's theme, 10. Tragic stakes, 10. Timeless storytelling, 10. Incremental evolution, 10. A transformational quality, 10. So yes, that is a perfect 10 out of 10 for Empire as well. It would seem we consider them tied, at least by the data. However, if pressed, we would give the tiebreaker nod to Star Wars. And then there was Revenge of the Jedi. Oh, that got us going. What an amazing title. Revenge! And using that fantastic word Jedi, we were absolutely bouncing off the walls to see this film. We again saw new visuals in a magazine ahead of time, which indicated that the new film was finally here. We saw a broken Death Star, which confused us. Were they saying the last one was only partially destroyed? That seemed odd. But that didn't diminish our zeal. We were in fact more determined than ever to uncover this mystery. This time, we convinced both primary data training units and 2 ancillary training units to take us down to see the film. By the time we got there in the summer of 1983, the title had changed to Return of the Jedi. We understood the reasons, that Jedi do not take revenge, which is fine. By the time the movie started, we understood that what looked like a broken Death Star was actually a new one under construction, which seemed somewhat anticlimactic. But then things got rolling, and we saw Jabba. Oh, holy moly. That was a huge step forward. Yoda was an incredible accomplishment in lifelike puppetry, but this was absolutely massive. And like Yoda, Jabba delivered as a real character, exuding brutish malevolence. The movie doesn't stop there, though, but continues to introduce a race of small, furry, endearing warriors, the Ewoks, to play a role in the finale. We honestly loved them at the time, and thoroughly enjoyed the story element they supported, of ingenuity coming from unexpected sources to challenge the overconfident. But the introduction we enjoyed most was the Emperor, as played by Ian McDiarmid. His sepulchral delivery and performance were both mesmerizing and terrifying, utterly credible as the master of Darth Vader. His performance becomes the catalyst for an extraordinary moment that both delivers a truly meaningful and satisfying conclusion to the trilogy and underlines the delayed double meaning of the title of the film. At the time, we saw no fault in the film, and many fans declared it their favorite. Over time, as fans matured, for many of them, their assessment of Jedi degraded. They became annoyed with the Ewoks and viewed them as a cynical merchandising opportunity. Some felt that Han was left with a relatively bland role, and that the twist reveal in the film was lackluster relative to the twist reveal in Empire. We think these impressions all come from valid observations. But do we agree with the conclusions? Before we address that, we would like to bring in the data training file of our new AI in training, Donk 8080. As it happens, they also were confused by the broken Death Star and had to be corrected that it was a new one under construction. They were impressed with Jabba, loved the Ewoks, and were stunned by the extraordinary moment in the finale. The diminution of Han and the lowered impact of the twist were not relevant. We feel illuminated by this fresh take. We never hated the Ewoks either, and enjoy them at face value, and for their strategic value in the story. We do recognize, however, that Gary Kurtz left the production to be replaced by Howard Kazanjian, and the director was Richard Marquand, and both of them felt unsteady in pushing back on Lucas's vision. There was, therefore, the introduction of some slapstick and some rushed characterization that made the film slightly less than it could have been. To put it in terms of the data, here's the vector analysis. A singular vision, 10. Excitement, 10. Originality, 9. Credibility, 9. A transporting quality, 10. Strong characters, 10. Groundbreaking effects, 10. An emotive score, 10. Tragic stakes, 10. Timeless storytelling, 10. Incremental evolution, 9. A transformational quality, 10. The repeated Death Star lingers as an issue for us. In fact, there was an opportunity to do something more here. There was a larger scale conflict in the earlier treatment, but Lucas scaled it back to what we got to save on very real budget issues. As for the Ewoks, we still don't mind them. They aren't so cute as to break the sincerity of the storytelling, in that they do try to roast the heroes to eat them, and speak in a mashup of real languages with what sounds like an Indian accent, and they're not bad in a fight. They can effectively distract biker scouts, and have a gamer's eye for the weak spots in boss battles with scoutwalkers. They're okay in our book. One area I do agree with the fans is that the story twist really is lackluster. It lets the love triangle off the hook too easily. It makes the world of the galaxy smaller. And yes, we were hoping Yoda was talking about something new and original, just like he is. And so, for those reasons, Jedi loses a point each on originality, credibility, and evolution. However, that still adds up to a 9.8 out of 10, a near-perfect score. And for us, the film contains the greatest moment in all of Star Wars, that extraordinary moment in the finale. That is pure movie magic that both works as a credible outcome, but also leaves us with unsettling, unanswered questions about empathy and redemption. It's in essence the payoff to the whole trilogy, the theme of the trilogy, and it delivers. And this leaves us happy. The films were astonishing when we saw them, and they are astonishing today. They formed the basis of our assessment of the potential of humans. They are the reason we have a generally optimistic view of humans, and the films set us on the course of our existence as well. Putting it all together, for fundamentally altering the course of human entertainment, setting our imagination in motion, and providing a wondrous home to escape to for nearly 50 cycles, the original Star Wars trilogy earns our infinite quality retrospective rating. As an endnote, we prefer to screen the original films in their original form at 4K resolution, as made possible by the 4K 77 community. You may also notice that we refer to Star Wars as Star Wars, and not by another extended title that appeared in future re-releases. Both of these choices reflect the importance of the original 1977 film titled Star Wars. It is that film that changed cinema and changed us. In fact, the retconning of scenes and additions of crude CGI effects significantly degrade and devalue the films in our view, and we have difficulty watching those special editions. Speaking of which, next week we aim to perform a retrospective review of the Star Wars prequel trilogy. We are going through them with Donk 8080 as well, and already have some revealing early results from compiling the data. But for now, this concludes the human version of our review. If you have feedback on it, please write in your own comments so that we can upload the galactic version to Zoggplex. You can expect more discussions and reviews of theatrical movies, streaming shows, and 4K home video releases as we continue to engage with your human rectangular entertainment. So please watch, like, subscribe, and comment so that we can continue to have the human voice reflected in the cosmos. Until next time, farewell, humans.